President Trump says not in America's backyard. The Wall Street Journal reporting that the president and his team are working behind the scenes to topple Cuba's communist regime by the end of the year. Sources say the administration is actively searching for Cuban government insiders willing to help cut a deal. The White House believes the moment is now. Cuba's economy is nearing collapse. You got food and fuel shortages, rolling blackouts, a government that appears as fragile as ever. This after the U.S. arrested their biggest ally, Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to something I said earlier. I think the president's got a real taste for moves around the globe. Add Cuba to that list. Could be a very good thing for the world, Gary, but it is a big question mark in terms of how that plays out, how much of the president's attention it requires, and what does it mean for the American military, for example?
I lived in North Miami Beach, Florida for a very long time when I was young, and I was very good friends. My family was very good friends with Cubans that came from Cuba, was telling us stories you would not believe. And I cannot believe it's 2026 and just 90 miles south of Key West, they're still in the position they are, that they were 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And it nauseates the hell out of me that you have some politicians on a certain side that have glamorized Cuba and the Castros and their health care while destroying the citizens there and destroying all hope. And it's still that way to this date. I have been waiting for somebody to do something. It's so close to do. It's a small island. Other islands have thrived with great, by the way, from what I hear, I haven't been there, great beaches and all, all these other places have thrived in the Bahamas and farther down there. It is about time something gets done for the people of Cuba. I cannot believe we're still in that same place throughout these years. I don't understand why and I'm not an interventionist, but I don't understand why 90 miles south something has not been done. Okay,
so let me jump on that, Jackie. Gary makes a great point. It's on one hand, you say, how do these guys survive so long? On the other hand, they have. Okay, yeah. So when you say, you're like, how could that happen? I think to Gary's point about intervention is you probably got to do something real big if you want to dislodge the communists from Cuba. Even if it's a great thing to do, doing a big thing is a big thing.
And that is why they have survived so long, because nobody else has been willing to step up to the plate and take the risk in order to do it. In your intro, Brian, as you were discussing the economic issues and the crisis that the people in Cuba are facing, and in your analysis of how long they have been living under a repressive regime, you could interchange the words Cuba and Iran to a certain extent, and both situations are very, very similar. In one case, you're dealing with communism. In the other case, you're dealing with militant religious oppression. But these are two situations that I think the president is closely watching right now after he took care of Venezuela, after he went to Davos and handled his Greenland situation, created his board of peace. These are the next two things on the agenda. And yes, unfortunately, in both situations, you've got to do something very, very big. But he's demonstrated that we have the military force and the smart defensive strategies to be able to do that. The question is when he will do it, how he will do it. But this is going to be part of his legacy. Even if you can't see what the benefits of it are specifically today, you're going to read about this president in history and see that he changed the global stage with respect to how things are done, how countries interact with each other, what kind of power structures we have. And that is going to have hundreds of years of lasting impact.
So, Dagan, history books are written a long time after midterm elections happen. Charles said yesterday, sometimes you need somebody who's willing to do the unpopular thing in the short term, even if there's a political hit, because it's the right thing to do. Is this an example of the right thing to do that may muddle the picture in 2026, but history will look back if he's successful and say, good on you for doing it in a midterm election year?
I know a lot of people who are also descendants of, or who fled, actual adults who fled Cuba as children. or the descendants or the children or grandchildren of Cubans. And so I understand the importance of the people who are still there being freed from communism. And I can understand where the administration where their eyes are, where their heads are, in terms of Western Hemisphere.
Yep.
It's doable. We can execute on this. This is something that people have been, voters of the Republican Party have been clamoring for generations. And as I said earlier in the week, President Trump will be remembered for his achievements, not for his methods. But as just a single person, one individual rather, I worry about what would happen if the Republicans don't maintain the House of Representatives. If there isn't just a singular focus on what is happening here in this country in terms of affordability, if clearly it's been foreign policy, and maybe the focus is on foreign policy because that is easily fixable in the president's mind through tariffs, through his bully pulpit. But if it goes the Democrats' way in the midterms, if you think there's an affordability crisis now, look out.
Yeah. And Taylor, I'll go right to you. I wonder, again, with gold and silver, and you talk about what's driving those prices, part of it could be, I posited earlier, maybe it's just the president's very active on the world stage, and that creates a lot of uncertainty. But I would argue it may not even be about America's moves. But if the U.S. goes into Cuba and says no more, I wonder if traders say, gee, how long before China goes into Taiwan and says no more? That, to me, is a gold and silver driving event. So there's a lot of activity on the global stage.
I hear you.
Reshuffling.
Yeah, I think as long as Trump's in office, China can't make a move on Taiwan. I think after what they just pulled off in Venezuela, China's like, oh, crap. We're not touching Taiwan, right? After what we just did. Long term, that's certainly a risk. And that's why we've seen companies like TSMC say we want to come and invest and build plants in America just to make sure that we are diversified. I'm sort of agreeing with Dagan, I think, on this, that is Cuba going to kind of take care of itself by cutting off Venezuela's oil to Cuba? Is that not already hurting them enough? Allow those people there to rise up and revolt like we're seeing in Iran, that we don't have to do much more than that? Is that already not enough economic pressure? Just food for thought.
Yeah, and then the question is what's enough, right? Is a sort of decapitated Cuba but impoverished what you want in your hemisphere? Do you need more than that?
Again, it goes back to what I said early last hour. Every voter is going to ask, what's in it for me?
Right.
Like, what am I getting out of that? Because it's been a lot. And for people who voted for President Trump, voted for getting out of the meddlesome business, this is a lot of
Metal.
hands and a lot of pies.